What if I told you that regret is not something that you should avoid, but instead it's a tool for building a better future? Regret is like emotional time travel, taking you back not to punish you, but to prepare you. And today we're going to take a look at the book, The Power of Regret by Daniel Pink. We're going to find out how you can turn I should have into I'm ready. First, I want you to think of something that you regret. Not something simple like skipping breakfast, but something that truly lingers. You got it? Okay, write that down. Now, I want you to hold on to that regret because throughout this video, we're gonna come back to it. And through it, we're gonna learn and grow together. In fact, by the end of this video, you're gonna find out how you can not only use that regret to learn more about yourself, but also prevent future regrets. But first, let's think about the word regret and what it really is. Regret is a backward-looking emotion. It tells you that you could have or should have handled something a little bit differently, and it tugs at you. That word coulda and shoulda reveals a lot. It reveals that you either have a missed opportunity or a missed obligation. In this book, Pink puts regret into 4 categories: foundational, boldness, moral, and connectedness. We're gonna dive into each of those 4 categories and find out which one your regret falls under. Regret is either action or inaction that make you wish you had handled things differently. It requires us to look back in the past, and that's why we call it emotional time travel. The first category we're looking at is foundation regrets. Foundation regrets are those little decisions you make that lead to big time consequences. And a lot of times foundation regrets sound like, I wish I had been more responsible, or I wish I had been more thoughtful. A lot of times you'll see the words too little or too much in foundation regrets. For example, I studied too little in college, or I partied too much in college. These are those little choices that lead to big time consequences, and when you look back, you regret them. Now, foundation regrets are the most difficult to avoid, and they're also the most difficult to undo, but they can reveal a need for stability. The next category we're going to look at is boldness regrets. And as the name implies, a boldness regret is one where you could have taken that step or raised your hand, but instead you didn't, and you missed the opportunity. Boldness regrets often have the words coulda and shoulda in them. And if your regret is one of boldness, it reveals a need for growth. The next category we'll look at is moral regrets. A moral regret requires you to have a certain set of values that you violate, and it tugs at you. For example, let's say you found an envelope of money in the parking lot, and you knew the right thing to do was to turn it in, but instead you keep it and you spend it. And over time that nags at you, and you know you should have done it differently, but you didn't. That's a moral regret. What moral regrets reveal is a need for goodness. The last category, and probably the most common, is connection regrets. These are where you become disconnected with somebody. Maybe you had a rift or a fight with them and you no longer speak with them. Or maybe you drifted away because your lives just went into 2 different directions. A lot of times these fall into 2 subcategories. Open door, meaning you still could reconnect with that person, or closed door, meaning there's no way to reconnect with them. Maybe they passed away. Either way, these connection regrets reveal a need for belonging. Okay, so remember that regret that you wrote down from earlier? Which of those 4 categories does it fall under? Is it a foundation regret that reveals your need for stability? Maybe it's a boldness regret that reveals your need for growth. Is it a moral regret and it reveals your need for goodness? Or, like so many, it could be a connection regret that reveals your need for belonging. Either way, we're going to take a look at some things you can do to fix it by following 3 steps. self-disclosure, self-compassion, and self-distancing. So let's start with self-disclosure. This is where you just get it out into the open, and this could look like you just writing it down or sharing it with a close friend. Either way, once you talk about the regret or just write it down, you're gonna find that it's a lot more easy to manage. This is like when you actually look at the wound and see how big it is. You're just trying to take it in and see what you're actually looking at. A couple of ways to self-disclose a regret is through a New Year's resolution, old year's regrets model. Every year people write down these New Year's resolutions, but before you do that, take a step back and look at the past year. What did you regret and how are you gonna overcome those with new resolutions? A regret resume is another solution. Take a minute, make a resume of all your failures, everything that you have done that you wish you had done differently. Now this might seem self-destructive, but it's not, trust me. By getting those regrets out on paper, you start to see that maybe the wound isn't as big as you thought it was. All right, so we've moved on from self-disclosure and now it's time for self-compassion. So reframe the regret as if a friend were to tell you about it, because a lot of times we're harder on ourselves than we are on our friends. Was this a lapse in judgment, or was this a representation of your true character? This self-compassion part reveals a lot about yourself, and you can use this to tell how you would respond to similar events in the future. So don't be so hard on yourself. Look at this regret as if a friend brought it to you and treat it the same way. Finally, you must self-distance. This is where you analyze and strategize from the regret. What did you learn from it? What's it teaching you? This is where you've got to be easy on yourself and not go into self-destruct mode. One way to do this is by making a list of at leasts. For example, I may have lost connection with that friend from high school, but at least I still have a way to stay in touch with the rest of my friends. Or I may have not turned that money in that I found in the parking lot, but at least I didn't hurt anybody. Using a list of at least will help you move on from the regret and learn from the regret, as well as predict how you would respond to future regrets. So after self-disclosure, self-compassion, and self-distancing, you've probably learned a little bit about yourself. You've learned about how you handle certain scenarios, and you can now move on from the regret. Is it something that you can go back and undo? Or maybe you just have to make a list of at least so that you can have a little self-compassion and move on from it. The next step is where we look at anticipation. And this involves traveling into the future and anticipating future regrets so that you don't repeat those circumstances. And that's the power of regret. By looking in the rearview mirror, you can see what's ahead. Be sure to bookmark this video so that you can go back and rewatch it the next time you face a difficult decision or a regret. And check out the book. It's only about 200 pages, it's not too long, and I've linked it in the description. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share this with a friend if you think they'd enjoy it. I'll see you next time.